universe doesn't care if we ever get our smoothies. The universe just doesn't care.
For an obvious throwaway villain from the previous series, I never would have expected Trombipular to lead as an episode's main antagonist. Wrapped up in a loose Harold and Kumar themed episode, Omniverse grows its wacky palette of stories further in the same vein as Have I Got a Deal for You, although this one feels like an improvement. Ben 10 has had extremely silly episodes from all three previous series before, but Omniverse has its own signature way of emphasizing the goofier parts of its world, which is a large part of the series' division among fans. While there's some solid jokes in here, there are some things that are too dull even by Ben 10 standards, like having an average Earth squirrel stealing their motorcycle.
Now there's something you don't see every day, Blukich.
Omniverse often seems to confuse sci-fi's general suspension of disbelief with full-on Hanna-Barbera logic. This episode does have an expected Ben 10 adventure going on, but it's framed in the background as Blukich and Dreba's quest for grasshopper smoothies takes the forefront. It's always interesting to see how a main character's events unfold in the perspective of the side characters, and show how their lives are affected and what they contribute to the story front and center. The stakes, aside from Trombipular gaining his quote ultimate power, comes from the Galvans potentially losing their jobs in their pursuit of an unauthorized smoothie run. Although aside from them stating that drawback, the tension of that conflict isn't emphasized, so the urgency of this mission is lost, and just feels like we're watching them dick around for 22 minutes. It kinda sucks to give the plot such a low score because I really do find Blukich and Dreba as enjoyable characters. I feel like there's so much more here I could have liked, but each scene feels too disconnected and random, like randomly assuming a cat knows how to get to Mr. Smoothies and attempting to ride it there, and later on, Blukich proclaims he had a revelation about not wanting to run away while he was off-screen, then proceeds to pay off his newfound bravery, again off-screen. I just don't feel like we're really getting anything out of seeing them front and center, but there is some neat foreshadowing to the upcoming dimension-hopping 23rd Mr. Smoothie store.
23! I only know 22.
Surprisingly, Trombipular is a pretty solid foe, with both strength and intelligence. If you recall the last series, it's implied it took the power of Ultimate Echo Echo to successfully defeat him, and the second time, he got a clean getaway. So seeing him hold his own against Forearms, Humongousaur, and later, even Way Big, makes this galactic elephant a lot tougher than we might give him credit for. He can even do this crazy-ass flip. I just wish he didn't look so stupid. Although, when I say he's a gimmicky villain, he's high up on that list. Mice robots, peanut power, every kind of elephant stereotype you can think of is live and present right here in this episode. It was a risky move to center so much of this episode around the Galvans, but unlike most of Omniverse's gimmicky characters, they're a lot less annoying and more well-rounded. Their surface level incompetence is balanced out by their genuine intellect, and will grow to become valuable assets to Ben and his team in future episodes, so it's nice that we got to spend some time with them here to grow more attached. Though it does feel like their arguing can drag on a few seconds too long at times. Not quite overdoing it, but they get very close. It's also funny how their genius is used to speculate very silly but valid things, like if their alien urine can somehow negatively affect the Earth environment. Though the animation wasn't that great this time around, especially Echo Echo's wall of sound looking pretty weak, it still had some interesting visuals here and there. Seeing Ben fight in the nighttime streets with a blue hue is very reminiscent of the UAF era, while still showing off Omniverse's signature detailed backgrounds, such as the Bellwood State Park and the interior shot of Trombipular's mouth. I also love the detail that Trombipular's footsteps always crack the ground due to his weight. It's always there. Also, there's a rare moment where the moon in Ben 10 isn't a full moon. Aside from the Store 23 foreshadowing and getting to know the Galvans more, this episode is pretty skippable. And while these two are much more entertaining than the likes of other comedic characters like Pax, Hoaxstar, and Solid Plug, they aren't given too much to work with in their own story, but they still have an appealing enough presence to keep you somewhat invested. If I could improve this episode, I would make the Galvan duo victims of cascading circumstances to lead them into more interesting scenarios, in a similar vein to Harold and Kumar proper or Dumb and Dumber, rather than what they do here where each conflict starts and ends in isolation, and they just move on to the next scene. I also would have played up their fears of losing their jobs more, as that's pretty much the only conflicts we're given to work with here, but I still wouldn't say this episode is one of Omniverse's worst.
We have to go. We have to find out how they get him so smooth.